So a quick note before this podcast starts, whether you're on YouTube or Spotify or wherever, this recording took place hours before the Matthew Tkachuk trade, before guys like Michael Kempney signed, before a couple RFAs re-signed. So there's just a lot of stuff outdated. So just to save you the trouble, for Calgary and Florida, their grades have obviously changed. So I'm just gonna let you guys know their new grades right now, so you don't have to wonder about it after the video ends. So Calgary's new grade will be a C plus. Florida's new grade in this video is an F. I'm not gonna tell you what their grades are, what they were before. You just have to watch the video and find out yourselves. But just want to let you guys know, a lot of stuff is outdated already. A lot of stuff went out of date like in 3 days. It's crazy. But yeah, it was a fun recording, and enjoy.
Well, welcome back to another episode of the Tundra Cast. Today is episode 67, and I'm here with Ryan
What's up, everybody?
and Shay.
How's it going?
And today we're going to be grading every NHL team's off-season so far, because, there's still plenty of time in the off-season left. So let's get right into it, first with Anaheim.
Yeah, I guess I'll start. Anaheim's had I feel like a really interesting offseason. There's a couple of pretty young players that they drafted pretty highly over the last couple of seasons that they didn't qualify. I think that was like the big thing that I really noticed about their offseason. They didn't qualify Sam Steele. They didn't qualify Sonny Milano. They didn't qualify Brand Gooley or Jacob Larson, who did sign in Ottawa. And so these are four guys that they drafted between 2014 and 2017 that that they just haven't brought back. Obviously, Getzlaf's retired, and two of the pieces they got back in the Raquel deal in ZAR and Dominique Simone. And to be fair, Simone's not that much of a important piece. He hasn't been in NHL the last like 2 seasons now. They're all in free agency right now too. So I thought that was very interesting in terms of the departures. But I personally, I don't know, their draft was a mixed bag for me. I love two of their picks. I hate one of their picks, and the other one I just don't know enough about the prospect. So you guys know how I feel about Pavel Mintyukov. I'm not very high on him. Shay can expand more about his game than in a positive light than I can. So for the sake of the Ducks fan base, I'll let Shay talk about Mintyukov instead of myself.
Oh, I know there's a lot of like mixed feelings on Pavel Mintyukov, but I think this is a really solid two-way defenseman, and this is his first year in North America. He was just under point per game for the Saginaw Spirit. But I think they need a really stable defensive partner for Jamie Drysdale. I think Mintyukov can bring that. He does have a little bit of deficiencies in his own end, but like I think he's a better bet than Kevin Korchinski, who I love Kevin Korchinski. If you
Number
guys saw
seven.
during the draft, and I mean number seven, that's really high for him.
That's really
But
high.
I think this is just about planning for the future. You know, as you guys can see there, they also took Noah Warren and Tristan Lanu. They're really building around that decor. So like I'm fine with Mintyukov at number 10 now. I think I had him around number 15, so a little bit higher than I expected. But I think this is a kid that's gonna get better each year, especially in North America in the OHL. I'm not the biggest fan of the Nathan Gaucher pick at all. I had him like near the end of the second round. I know Nick loves
Mm.
Nathan Gaucher.
No, me and Nick
Um,
both had him first round around that range. So
I'm not the highest on
yeah.
Gaucher. I don't think he has the highest ceiling. If you look at what else the Ducks have done, I mean, Ryan Strome, I don't know about 5x5. I think he's a good second liner. But like the other thing the Ducks have is a lot of cap space. They got 30
Yeah.
million and they still got almost seven roster spots to fill with that. And like for a rebuilding team, that's pretty good. I mean they're in on Nino Niederreiter, who went to Nashville. Who knows? Maybe the Ducks can go after John Klingberg for like 2 or 3 years. In a couple years, you flip him for a couple more prospects and picks. I'm really liking what Pat Verbeek has done this offseason, which is why they get a B. It's a solid grade. It's not they haven't had the best offseason, but it's pretty solid. Yeah, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I've liked this
Well,
off season for Anaheim so far. I think for me, I questioned the Strome and Vetrano signings mainly just because of the timeline of competitiveness in my eyes. But to be fair, when they were so below the cap floor, it is good to just sign solid guys for contracts. So
yeah, I mean, I think the Ryan Strome signing is really I think an Adam Henrique replacement because Henrique has what is this is the last year of his deal. Is
He
either
has
the
two
last
years
year or
left.
the yeah.
I think
So is it the last year or the second last year? I
I'll
think he
double
has
check.
value. Yeah, he's got Henrique's got value. Henrique's still a really good player, can easily be a middle six center for any playoff team. And I think either this year at the trade deadline, um, Anaheim, because they have so much cap space, if they can retain 50% on Henrique and move him out for a first round pick, a prospect, right? That could be a real possibility. But I also think that with their forward core that's so young, with guys like Zegras, Troy Terry, Mason McTavish, it does it is beneficial to have some veterans tied in there. And if you're going to move on from a guy like Adam Henrique, it doesn't hurt to bring in a Ryan Strome, who, is he worth 5 by 5? Probably not. But on Anaheim, who's so below the cap ceiling, who doesn't have to worry about paying anyone really for like the next 2, 3 years, 5 by 5 is not that bad, right? And he's one of the highest paid players on their team. Um, but Toronto's whatever again a whatever signing 3 years. In 3 years, like it doesn't really impact Anaheim. In 3 years, that's when they have to sign everyone, and then Vetrano's off the books. So whether or not they overpaid for his services doesn't really matter. I think he's a bomb six forward, and I like the fact that he's no longer in the Eastern Conference. He's not in New
Hmm.
York. He's not in Florida. I don't have to deal with him. Um, Simone Benoit they brought back, which I really like. He was very good for Anaheim last year. Stepped up into that role after Anaheim sold off half their defense to Boston and Colorado. I think we don't know the terms of his contract yet, but I think he's a real good player. He's only 23, and I think he can be a staple on that blue line. I really like him. And Glenn Gaudin is a very underrated signing. He tore up the AHL last year, and I think he could be a guy who obviously I think they signed him to a two-way contract, but he's a guy who could very legitimately be competing for NHL ice time with Anaheim next year.
Good job, Calgary. And yeah, that's about it for Anaheim. Just a solid offseason all around. Let's go on to Arizona. And um maybe not best draft per se. I mean Connor Geek we talked about Connor Geek at the time. Just so talented. He just can't skate whatsoever. Maverick Lemereau, I had him in the fourth round. I think he's going to be a physical number six guy. That's not a guy you take in the first round. Chuyam Duda, and Julian Lutz, very solid picks in the second round. Biggest thing about this offseason, once again, for Arizona was taking on more bad contracts and getting picks. As you can see there, Patrick Nemeth and Zach Cassian from Arizona. They also got back, 2 seconds in a third from Edmonton and the Rangers. Um, and they just got younger. I mean, Jay Beagle's gone, Louis Erickson's gone, Phil Kessel's gone, Antoine Roussel's gone. All these guys are like what 34 or older,
Yeah,
who are making like six
yeah,
million.
man.
Like they're off the books. And I mean, the only RFAs they got to sign are Lawson Cross, who had a very good year for them last year, and Barrett Hayden, who I mean, hopefully he starts to break out fifth overall in 2018. You want to see his potential shine. But Bill Armstrong just had another solid offseason. The future's looking bright for Arizona. Maybe not arena wise, but that team should be good in 5 years. Like they got a boatload of picks in the incoming years. A lot of very good young talented prospects. I think the B minus grade we gave for Arizona is pretty fair.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, yeah. You go first, Rob. My bad.
I think losing Coroner kind of hurts with him going to the Czech league, but obviously they could just get another goalie pretty easily. So I think the B minus is pretty fair. they do have a very bright future. I think it just depends on how they use the picks and such.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Arizona and Anaheim's off seasons weren't super different. I think Anaheim bought more in free agency to make their team better, and I think Arizona's pretty content with just being bottom feeders for now as they continue to build their prospect pool. Because Arizona, despite being like very bad, doesn't really have the deepest prospect pool, ironically. And so I think their main goal this offseason was to build that youth pool, right? That prospect pool. And Logan Cooley goes a long way towards giving them that blue chipper to go alongside Dylan Genther as a potential first line tandem for the future. But, as we mentioned, Connor Geeky, not a huge fan of that pick. Very skilled, doesn't skate. Lamoureux I had in the mid second round. I felt like in the early second they nailed, like I mentioned, like Shay mentioned, they nailed their two picks there. But I think, you know, they could have they could have navigated the draft a little bit better. I think there was a lot of value in the late first and early second that they could have capitalized on with all the picks they had in that area. And, they chose to, make some moves to move up. And I'm just not sure that was the best route to go. And that's why they're a B minus and not maybe a B or B plus. I think their execution in the draft could have been a little bit better.
I agree. Let's head over to the Boston Bruins, and very, very quiet offseason for Boston. Only notable acquisition is Pavel Zacha, who was traded for Eric Halla. Chris Lazar went to Vancouver, fourth liner, doesn't really matter. Josh Brown went to Arizona. And Bergeron may or may not come back. And add to the fact, Charlie McAvoy and Brad Marchand will be out for the first half of the year. I mean, get there wasn't much, like, there's not much Boston could do, but they were very quiet. If I were them, I would have stacked up on wingers and maybe another defenseman to replace those two guys. But yeah, that's it. Like, they didn't do much. C plus.
I mean, yeah, just nothing, right? They really didn't do anything. Which is which is interesting because I feel like with all these guys that are still available in free agency right now, you'd expect Boston to actually at least throw a couple of darts out there, right? A $1 million contract here, 950K contract here on one year deals. We saw a guy like Andre Kasha go to Carolina for 1.5 million. I can't believe that with Marchand being out and Boston desperately needing some kind of forward depth right now, that they didn't at least look into a guy like Kasha or someone who could come in on a relatively low salary and play NHL minutes for them. So a lot to be desired for Boston's offseason, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think if anything, if if like we were to go back and change the grades at any point, I think if anything we would just remake it C because they really haven't done anything,
Yeah.
neither bad nor good. I mean, Zaka was sort of a good acquisition, but it all depends on what kind of contract they sign him to. But yeah, I agree. It's odd to not see them hand out some small contracts. That's sort of like test deals like they have in the past. So
Maybe they
I
will. Like, maybe they will, because, like, guys like Milano, Heinen, who's played there before, are
Oh,
still
please
out
no.
there.
I do not want to see those two on Boston. No, no, that's not happening. No. Um, if Bergeron resigns, I think this all pivots on Bergeron. Because if
Oh,
they
yeah.
can bring back Bergeron on a pretty reasonable, $3 million deal, like they can get him at a steep discount just to come back and play 1 or 2 more years, I think this grade can go up. Right? But it's the fact that they're so far into the offseason already, they haven't done anything, and they don't know if Bergeron is coming back sitting with almost 5 million in cap. It's like at this point, if Patrice Bergeron's not going to come back, you might as well just use the cap space, right?
yeah
Like you gotta get that done quick, otherwise the market's going to start drying up for these unrestricted free agents.
Sure.
yeah, and it's definitely something that you need to do.
Buffalo had a pretty good draft. Matthew Savoy at number 9, great. Siakam's boy, Noah
Yes,
Ostling goes to
sir.
16. Yuri Kulich, who was very high on my draft radar, I had him early second, goes to 28. Topias Leinainen at 41. I mean, the goalies in this draft or whatever. Um, like, acquisition wise, they didn't really change much. Like, they brought back Victor Olofsson. They signed Ilya Labushkin. They bringing in Eric Comrie as a backup. Not much on the acquisition front. It's basically the same team, but you're expecting guys like JJ Paterka, Dylan Cousins to really take those next steps up. Especially Casey Middlestat. I'm fine with Buffalo being quiet because that's really what they had to do. I wouldn't really change much about their team. Maybe some tweaks on the defense. You know, could guys like Matthias Samuelson, own power? Could they play top pair minutes with Rasmus Dahlin? We'll see what happens. All in all, like they're pretty quiet, but in a good way. And they still got boatload of cap. They got 20 million. Who knows? Like, there's still a bunch of free agents out there. They can
Uh,
spend money on those guys.
just
Um,
as a real quick before we move on, I do want to apologize for Arttu Rustalainen still in pending our phase. When he did sign in the Swiss league, I did
you
not.
did?
Yeah, I literally didn't know about that till just now because
Yeah,
because I when I was trying to go through and re-edit
He
all of
signed
them.
today.
Yeah, he
He
just
signed.
signed.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. There's been the one day we decided to record, a flurry of news just came in.
Yeah.
So we tried to keep it updated as much as possible.
Yeah,
So we
if
will
there's a
maybe miss one or
few
two
if
players.
there's a few things we'll just point them out.
Uh, like
Yeah.
speak of that, like I mean, we just added Will Butcher to Dallas. Like that just happened like 10 minutes ago. So if we're missing stuff, we're sorry. But once again, like I'm fine with Buffalo staying quiet. They still got a really young team. I think that was the best course of action. So I think it a B plus.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty fair grade because, they nailed the draft. I love their draft. When it happened, Savoy was a top six talent for me when they took him at 9. I had them mocked at 9. I thought he was a perfect fit for them, and they took him there, and I was like, okay, that's a real good pick. And Noah Ostlund, I called him the next Nicholas Backstrom. And I still think that about him. I'm really high on him. I hate the fact that those two are in my division now. But they nailed their first two picks. And Yuri Kulich is, again, a guy I had in the high second round too, but I don't hate them for taking him at 28. He's a very exciting player. And I think a really underrated signing that they made was Eric Comrie, because we don't know what he can be yet. He's primarily served as the backup to Hellebuck the last couple seasons, who had an extremely high work rate in Winnipeg. But in a team now where he probably gets some more playing time, you know, obviously Buffalo's got some great goalie prospects. We mentioned about UPL, Devin Levi, and there's that guy right now. I forget his name. But he's also really good. One of their prospects that they haven't signed yet. But if Eric Comrie is a guy who can step into like that 1A role as a tandem goalie at 1.85 mil for 2 years, a year from now, what could a guy like him fetch on the open market for a goalie needy team, right? Very savvy business by Buffalo. And Labushkin, I saw a lot of people hating on this contract, but for someone who watched him play for half a season, he was incredible for us. And I think, again, a year from now, Labushkin 50% retained might net Buffalo a top 2 round pick. So very, very good.
isn't it a bit scary that teams that are normally pretty dumb are being very smart?
No, right?
Yeah,
I don't
We'll
like
it
get
it.
doesn't make sense. Something's
okay,
going
we'll
on.
get more into that a bit later, but
Yeah, there's definitely more
It's
teams to
okay.
talk
It's okay.
about.
It's okay. We
uh,
call when things balance. Things usually tend to balance out. Buffalo makes smart decisions now, when they used to make dumb decisions. And the next team that we're about to talk about, used to make smart decisions and probably will be making dumb decisions. So it all evens out. It's okay.
Yeah.
well, the next team are the Calgary Flames, and what else is there to say about the Calgary Flames offseason? You lost your best player to fucking Columbus, Ohio. Um,
Yeah, I can't believe Good Branson went to Columbus, Ohio. Definitely their best player.
yeah.
Oh man.
Hey, we spoke about Glenn Godden. I mean, wow, you signed what? Kevin Rooney, Nicholas Maloche. Like these are AHL guys. Trevor Lewis on your fourth line, I guess. Nikita Zadorov. I mean, we'll get into the Branson contract soon, but like compared to what he got, I mean that's fine. The biggest thing is your RFAs. Matthew Tkachuk is gonna get traded, and you can't lose that trade. You already lost Goudreau. If you're gonna trade away Tkachuk for below market value, especially after the season he had, I don't know what else is there to say. And you have 18 million in cap space, so you've got some room to work with. But like, what's Mangiapane gonna get? He had a 35 goal season. If I'm him, I'm asking for way north of 6 million. Oliver Shillington really broke out this year on their second pair. Like, he should get at least 4 million. Um, I mean, Connor McDavid broke the Calgary Flames, and I love it. And there's just nothing else to say. You. This was a nightmare situation for the Flames. That's it.
Oh my god. Yeah, I I don't really know what else to say. I mean, when we were talking about when I put the one picture above Vegas's grade before, I think that this would be another team that would get a picture like that.
I mean, just tragic. I mean, and the worst part is, if we're being honest, with Goudreau leaving, I think that opens the door for, as Shay mentioned, Mangiapane and Shillington. Mangiapane is gonna go, okay, before I'm on a winning team, right? We have Johnny Gaudreau and Kachuk, who are two superstars we have to bring back. You're probably gonna move Sean Monahan's contract. I'll probably take like 5.5 mil, 5.25. I'm gonna help out the team a little bit. I've only had 1 year where I've been really good. It makes sense. Maybe I sign a bridge deal. Now, what, you want me to stick around and play for a team that's about to lose two of their best players? And you want me to take a discount when you have 18 million cap space? No, you're gonna pay me. I want if I'm gonna stick around in Calgary, and I know you guys need me now since Goudreau and Kachuk are gonna be gone. I want 6.5, 6.75 for 5 years with a no move clause. Right, like,
Yeah,
and
and
Shillington's gonna be like, I want second pair minutes, and you need talent, so I want you to pay me, right? And they're in a very dangerous spot, and man, I mean, Calgary was looking like a really scary team last season, and in a matter of months, they've lost so many players
like
that were key to their team
yeah,
last
even
year.
a big thing. They now have lost their identity because if you think about Calgary, they were an in-your-face, dirty team that really just were dirty, and they've lost that identity now. I mean, maybe they could just keep that identity, but without Kachuk, that's a big part of like the in-your-face dirtiness gone.
And their inactivity again, like we mentioned how with Boston, right? Like we were like, oh, maybe Boston should throw out some 950K contracts. Well, I mean, Calgary's done that, but they they paid Kevin Rooney $1.3 million. Like
Oh.
could you have at least like brought back Matthew Phillips? I'd rather have Matthew Phillips at 1.3 mil for 2 years than Kevin Rooney. At least Matthew Phillips still has upside, right? They have so many really good RFAs that they just haven't addressed, right? I get Kachuk hasn't gotten an extension, but like, why haven't they made a more concerted effort on Mangiapane, Shillington, Phillips, Ruzika, who at this point are all going to feature prominently on their team next season?
I just I don't get it. I love it. I don't get it. Yeah, just blatant F. Blatant F. That's it. Next team, Carolina, and once again, another masterclass loss season by Don Waddell and Eric Tulsky. They had like drafting Gleb Trickcause at 60 is great on its own. The rest of the draft was also insane. We don't have enough time to talk about that, but they had one of the best drafts once again. Acquisitions: Brent Burns for jack shit, like Stevie Lawrence, some goaltender in college, and a third-round pick. That's all they got. That's all they got, and they got Brent Burns at like 34% retained. Got Max Pacioretty, an elite 35 goal scorer, for nothing. They traded like future considerations and got Max Pacioretty. Andre Kasha, he really needs to stay healthy, but when he is, he's a 40-point winger. 1.5 times 1 steal. And like, yes, they have 4 million to re-sign Martin Necas, and they probably trade away Ethan Bear because now you have Brent Burns, Brett Pesci, and Dylan Coughlin on your right side, so that opens up a possibility for a Bear trade. This team just improved so much, and like, honestly, they're early Stanley Cup. We say this every year about Carolina, but like they're easily one of the top 3 teams that can win the cup next year. They're stacked everywhere. And like only pieces they lost were, I mean, Max Domi was a UFA. He was a deadline acquisition. That's whatever. I mean, Neil Niederreiter went to Nashville. Trocheck kind of got a bit overpaid in New York, but it was an amazing offseason for Don Waddell. Who knows? They could still make moves. They can easily still make moves. They're geniuses. It's an A+.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, great off season for Carolina. I mean, honestly, I was looking at them headed into the offseason and I thought this is the year their team might fall apart. You know, Trocheck and Niederreiter were instrumental to their top six. Great players, and they're about to lose both. You know, and then there were questions of if Jake Gardner was going to come back. Tony DeAngelo, who they signed really cheap, is now coming back. Is now going to free agency, and he's going to want it back. He got paid this offseason, right? There were a lot of questions like, can they keep this team together? Can they stay competitive? Can they at least be as good as they were this past season? Can they just keep this train going for a bit longer? And then they went and got a 35 goal scorer who's one of the elite forwards in the NHL when healthy. They got a 23-year-old young defenseman who has played NHL minutes and showed that he can play, 15 minutes a game on your third pair. And then you would ask, what did they give up to get these two guys? And the answer is nothing. I mean, I still can't believe it. And I mean, we talked about how instrumental Trocheck was for them. He doesn't put up 35 goals a season. He's not Max Pacioretty. And so, yeah, Carolina got better in an offseason where I think a lot of people are expecting them to get worse.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
That it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to add. You guys summarized it all pretty well.
Hey, Chicago. Who wants to trash on the Hawks?
Oh, me.
Okay, you go.
So you had the Hawks, who were pretty bad last year. The only reason that they were somewhat relevant for a while is because, well, they were the only team besides Arizona for a long time without a win. They proved to, I mean, they literally just were. It seemed like they were trying to tank on purpose last season. Even though that they had traded away their pick. But then you get into their off season, and what do? Well, they trade away Alex DeBrincat. I mean, they buy out Connolly. They buy out Borgstrom. DeHaan left. Gustafson leaves. Lankinen leaves. That's whatever. Delia leaves. That's whatever. But then they don't qualify Kubliak or Strome, which is just dumb. I mean, if you're going to trade away DeBrincat, fine. He's sort of a luxury piece when you're not competing, but you didn't get enough back for him. Then you have Kubliak and Strome. You could have gotten you could have at least RFA. You could have at least qualified them, and then taken the offer sheet and gotten picks, or at least tried to make a trade to get something back. It really makes no sense. Obviously they're stuck right now. They're stuck with players like Taves, Kane, and Jones. To just add, they got Peter Mrazek, which is just a question mark. They got Stalock pretty cheap, and again, question mark. And then they added Blackwell, Domi, and Athanasiou, and I'm not too sure why. I mean, Blackwell's okay, but again, what's the point? And then Domi and Athanasiou, I guess they're fine, but again, what's the point of adding players like this?
I'm guessing they're deadline bait.
I guess, but at the same time, your deadline bait are players that could just be nothing. Like, they could just fizzle out, and then you have nothing. I don't know what their GM is doing. I don't understand. It's just a question mark. I don't know why they picked Korchetti when they did.
It was
Let's give them credit. Frank Nazar was a good pick.
Yeah,
That's
Very
the,
good
I'm gonna
pick.
be honest. I'm gonna be honest. That was the only reason they are not an F right now. I love Frank Nazar so much. I couldn't bear to see his name next to an F. If they did not pick him at 13, this would be an F minus. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
Yeah.
I'm about to go. I'm about to go in on this team, and it's surprising that they got a D minus. But again, the only reason they're not an F minus is because of Frank Nazar. Okay, Alex DeBrincat, bona fide superstar, right? 40 goal, a guy who can score 40 goals a season, right? On a pretty bargain deal for this year, right? A first, a second, and a third for him. Yes, one of the picks was pick 7. They got the same package for Brandon Hagel. You
Yeah.
cannot tell me that you are going to get the exact same package for Alex DeBrincat that you got for Brandon Hagel, okay? That's number 1. Okay, fine. If at number 7 they took a guy that could change their franchise, if they took a Joaquin Kamel or a Jonathan Lekaramaki to literally just be a goal scorer replacement for DeBrincat, fine, you get a pass. You took Kevin Korchinski, who, yes, I know was high on a lot of people's boards, one of the most raw prospects in this entire class. I had him late first, and I like Kevin Korchinski a lot. I wanted the Leafs to draft him at 25, right? That didn't end up happening because someone took him at 7 for some reason, right? But he's not worth a top 10 pick, right? And that's going to be when people look back at this trade 10 years from now, they're going to go, Chicago traded Alex DeBrincat for who? A fourth defenseman on the team? Frank Nazar, great pick. I got no arguments there. Great player. I have him as a top 10 talent. Great pick. The Peter Mrazek trade. Okay, don't get me wrong. The trade itself was good, right? Chicago didn't have any goalies on their roster. They took a bad contract. They moved up 13 picks in the draft. That's fine. What I don't like is the fact that they took Sam Rinzel. Because, again, Rinzel was not a first-round pick for me. He was a mid to late second-rounder. And the pick that they traded to Toronto, which was for Minton, I had Minton ranked ahead of Rinzel in my draft rankings. So in my mind, Chicago traded up, took on a bad contract to do so, and got a player that was worse than the player that the other team picked at the lower spot. So I didn't love their draft, right? Mrazek, I cannot wait to see him in a Chicago uniform next year. He's gonna be terrible. I'm gonna laugh. I'm just gonna be happy he's not on my team.
He's gonna be dead a game in. He's gonna die first game. He's gonna get injured.
Yeah. And then the audacity to not qualify Kubalik and Strome. The audacity to not qualify Dylan Strome, who had a career best season last year. I get it, right? Change of scenery. They're letting the guy go. If you can sign Andreas Athanasiou to a 1 year, $3 million deal, you can give Dylan Strome $3.5 million, okay? Because that's what he ended up getting from Washington. And I can bet you that a guy like Dylan Strome, who has proven he can produce in your organization, will get more at the trade deadline for you than Andreas Athanasiou can, all right? So I didn't get that aspect. Kubalik, I get it. Pretty much non-existent 5-on-5. And Max Domi, I think, is probably better than him. And so I don't hate that much, but just a lackluster offseason. You lost your best player. You drafted a rando with the pick that you got for him. you took on Peter Mrazek, who was like a bottom 5 goalie in the NHL, and you took a guy that had like late second round value with the pick. Like, this is what I mean. Chicago the last 2 seasons has just been fumbling the draft. Right? They took Del Mastro last year, who was a guy I really liked. But they messed up Dak with the Colton Dak pick, and they messed up the wherever the other one was. But who else did they draft that year?
It was
Allen, Nolan Allen.
Nolan Allen.
Yeah, a terrible pick.
Like, they drafted Colton Dak to be with his brother Kirby, and then they just got rid of Kirby.
And then they traded him. So I mean, just a lackluster draft.
Yeah,
lackluster offseason. Nothing positive to say outside of Nazar.
No, literally.
Speaking about Kirby Doc, I just noticed he isn't on the key departures.
Shit.
We just ran out of space. They got rid of everyone.
Yeah, just everyone's gone. And what's even funnier is the fact that, what was it, their GM was like, we want to trade Seth Jones. He has a no movement clause. He has a no movement clause.
Anyways.
And even if he didn't have a no movement clause, no one wants him.
He's getting paid more than Cale Makar.
He's getting paid more than Cale Makar, Roman Yossi, and like a bunch of other defensemen who are way better.
like Nurse is getting paid more than these guys, but at least Darnell Nurse is good. Like Seth Jones isn't even good, and y'all are paying him $9.5 million to be bad on your bad team with a no movement clause, so you can't even trade him.
Yeah, and then it's like Kane and Taves might want out. It's like they also have no movement clauses.
Okay,
So,
Taves and Kim will probably waive so that they can go to a team that's not named Chicago.
yeah, but
But
still,
like,
they'd have no
oh,
leverage of getting rid of them. So they're essentially going to get nothing for two cornerstones of their franchise.
yeah, let's just move on. I don't want to talk about Chicago anymore. Yeah, looking at their
Yeah.
offseason just makes me upset. Like,
Colorado.
uh,
Not bad for Colorado. They re-signed Josh Manson, which surprised me. Arturi Lekin got a steal of a deal. Valentin Chushkin, maybe a little high. We'll see if he can replicate this past season. I already said my thoughts on Georgiev. I think that's a stupid ass trade. Darren Howe and Cogliano, two key contributors on their fourth line. That's whatever. Um, we kind of expected this from Colorado because they literally had no cap space and they were going to lose a lot of players. Like this team is still gonna be first in the Central next year. They're obviously not as good as last season, but I mean, I think B minus is pretty fits them well. I heard they want to bring back Kadri, and if you want to do that, you probably have to trade away Samuel Girard, which I mean, I guess you can do because like he didn't play a lot in the playoffs last year. He got injured halfway through, and he
What?
still won the cup without him.
Yeah, well, just for a thing, what's Byram's contract?
he's on his
He's
ELC for 10
ELC.
more years.
So maybe you could put a bad contract with Byram.
No shot. No. I'd rather trade Sam Girard than move Bowen
Here's
Byram. He
okay.
was
I'm
so
just
good
saying.
for Colorado
I'm
in
just
the
saying
playoffs.
this with his concussion issues. It might be a thing where he eventually can't play anymore, and that would suck. But as somebody who has also suffered from concussion issues, it can be very debilitating. So that's a decision that they have to make.
I get that, but he played a whole lot for them in this playoff run. He was really good for them in this playoff run. He's so young. He's on his entry level. I mean, and it's not like Sam Girard's been super durable either, right?
Yeah,
Like, I mean,
exactly.
he's a so it's like I'd rather move Girard. I'd rather move Girard at this point if I
It
want to bring
yeah,
back a guy like Kadri,
it's just a
because
decision they have to make.
Byram's just so cheap, and he's so good. And obviously concussion issues, I get that, but for a team like Colorado who wants to win, who has a lot of guys that they're paying, and a lot of guys are going to have to pay, like McKinnon when his deal comes up, having a guy like Byram who's just making the ELC is an invaluable asset.
McKinnon's gonna
So
take a giant pay cut just to have all calories banned from the locker room.
But I mean, I think Colorado did a pretty good job this offseason. They've mitigated damage, I think.
Yeah,
Burakovsky, Kemper, Kadri, three huge pieces that they lost, but they've kept a lot of their players. I think that's as much as you could ask for, to be
yeah.
honest.
I just think that the big thing remaining left is if they can get Kadri, that'll be a big thing. But if they lose Kadri, you better hope he goes to the east.
To be fair, like, even if Kadri comes back, I don't see him being that 90-point guy again. I just don't see that happening, right? So, like, maybe you just do let Kadri go. Let some team give him maybe like around 7 million now because, like, it's been almost a few weeks since free agency started. But, like, do you really take that risk on Kadri? I wouldn't. That's not good cap management.
I don't know. I
Especially
think he
now
was
with
such a.
McKinnon.
I think he was just such a big part of the cup winning team. I think maybe again it's another decision that they have to make.
I mean, I think it depends on term. I don't mind paying Kadri. I just think that you can't pay him past when McKinnon's contract is due, which basically is what, 1 year.
1 or 2 years.
Yeah, cause the thing with Kadri is much like what he was with Toronto. He's a luxury good. He was instrumental to their cup, but the skill set that he brings is also not irreplaceable because they have so much firepower offensively already,
That
right?
is very true.
Um, and you can see in the moves that they made that they realized that they've got three world beaters on offense in McKinnon, in Rantanen, in Landeskog, and they have Cale Makar. What they focused on bringing back was not the skilled guys, was not the scorers, the shooters. They brought back Lehkonen, two-way player. They brought back Nichushkin, power forward, right? And they brought back Helm and Cogliano, who were very good bottom six depth pieces for them, right? They let Burakovsky and Krejci go because I think they realized like we have enough offense. We don't. These guys aren't necessary. We don't have to bring them back. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think they did a good job bringing the guys they needed back.
Yeah. I think the biggest concern is now that I hate when this happens. I'm blanking on the name. Now that Joe Sakic isn't the GM anymore, we'll see what the new GM does.
Sakic will still have a pretty key role, I feel.
Yeah, he'll still have a key role, but I think it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Columbus. Earlier today they would have been at an A-, but they did something stupid. Traded away all for Bjorkstrand for jack shit. They got like a 3rd and a 4th round pick back. Signed Patrick Laine into a decent deal. They did get Johnny Gaudreau, but then they decided, you know what we need? A 4x4 Eric Gabranson. That's what we need.
Yeah.
I mean, their draft was pretty good for the most part. I like David Jiricek at 5. Like Chuck at 12, I guess, but like you just drafted Jiricek. You have a lot of defenseman prospects in your system, like Corson Coleman's. I would have taken a Florida that spot, but like whatever. And look at Del Bebelou's very good pick in the 2nd round. And that's why they get a B. It was an up and down. It's been an up and down off season for Columbus. Like,
you know what's funny? Some people might say that they had to trade away Bjorkstrand for cheap because they're still in the negative cap space. They wouldn't be negative if they didn't give Gudbranson $4 million.
That's what I'm saying.
He's not even good.
Okay. I mean, he's 3rd overall.
Very true.
To be fair to Gudbranson, he had a decent year with Calgary.
Oh, by the way, they also gave Gudbranson a modified no trade clause. So
of course they did.
Yeah.
Like Gudbranson was fine for a Calgary last year. He really fed into that physical mentality that they preach over there under Daryl Sutter. But 4x4? They gave this guy $4 million. I can do what Eric Gudbranson does, and I can't even skate. Actually, I'm not sick. I'm not like 6'3", 250 pounds, but you know, like $4 million for basically a pylon that hits sometimes. like this offseason has just been so up and down, you know? Like they draft Jiricek at 5, great pick. They trade up for Mateyuchuk, questionable. They drafted Luca Del Belus. Oh, not bad, right? They signed Eric Branson. Oh, terrible. Oh, they got Johnny Gaudreau. Let's go. Oh, they signed Patrick Laine. We're on top of the world. Oh, we traded Oliver Bjorkstrand for nothing. For literally nothing. Right back down to earth.
And they're still in the negative because of Gudbranson.
And they still have the clear cap. The one thing I don't get is why didn't they just trade Gustav Nyquist?
I was thinking. Seriously. I said that in my video. I don't know if you guys seen the video.
Yet, I saw the video.
Just trade Gustav Nyquist, man, and he makes more than
And he makes more than Bjorkstrand too.
He makes more than Bjorkstrand. He only has 1 year left, so it's not even like not even like a team that will take him will like want that much back because it's only for 1 year. Like you're telling me Arizona wouldn't take him for like if you gave them like a 4th round pick or like a 3rd round pick, right? They took a 2nd and a 7th to take on Gothisbehere for 2 more years. You're telling me they wouldn't take Nyquist for 1 year for like a 3rd or a 4th? You don't need more picks. You have like 60 prospects. That's why you trade up in the draft because you didn't need to take that many players.
You know what would be really funny is if eventually they have to use that 2nd or that 3rd and the 4th to get rid of Gudbranson.
Oh my lord. Yeah, I mean, I think a B is fair. They got the best free agent on the market. They re-signed Laine to a pretty good contract. They got Jiricek. But then, like, it's just every good move. Like, it's like Yarmo can't make 3 good moves in a row. Every good move he makes, he has to make a bad one to counteract it. It's like
they get a B for Branson.
Yeah.
Right. Next team. I think we should hurry up a bit because like this is the 10th team and like 30 minutes in, so like we'll hurry up a little bit.
I mean, we could split it off into parts. That way, it's like 3.
We'll see. We'll see. But Dallas. Liam Bishail at 18, a little bit high. I like Christian Kyrou at 50. Danny Gurianov and Colin Miller, two solid ass deals. We talked about this on the stream. Mason Marchment, we'll see. We'll see if he's worth that. He had one really good year. Florida Tax. They just signed Will Butcher today on a 2-way deal. Didn't really lose much besides John Klingberg, but as we talked about, really a little bit overrated.
I don't even think that they wanted him back, to be honest.
I don't think so either. And
the moment Colin Miller came back, the door on Klingberg was shut. They're we got a guy who we think plays a better 2-way game than you, and we got him for like a fifth of the price. Go kick rocks.
And Jason Robertson, Jake Ottinger, their best young players as RFAs.
That's the big one.
It's been pretty quiet. We'll see if they can re-sign them to reasonable deals. I think B- is pretty fair.
The big one though is if with 11.5 mil, if they can bring back both of those guys. Like that's what this grade is really contingent on. If they bring back both of them with the cap space they have, I think a B- B is fair. But if they have to like start giving up a bunch of assets to get off contract so they can bring these two guys back, we might be looking more like C+ territory.
You have to sign both of these guys. It is essential that you do.
Yeah, for sure.
Detroit. And once again, Stevie Y, another masterclass. Marco Casper at 8. I like Marco Casper. Is he 8th overall worthy? We'll see. He'll probably pan out just fine. Acquisitions. I'm so shocked that David Perron signed there. That was like, that one shocked me a lot. Dominic Kubalik, maybe not the. I mean, Jake knows a lot about Kubalik. He says he's not the best, but 2.5 in 2 years, it's whatever. They signed Andrew Cobb to a.
I've watched Kubalik play a lot since division rival, and literally, if you want to stop Kubalik when he's on offense, literally just like move in front of him, because all he does is he will rush in and take a shot, and if you can stop that, it's done. That's all he'll do.
Right, they got Kopp on a pretty good deal. Who still surprised me because they already had Nedeljkovic and they got Kosa waiting in the wing, so it really surprised me that they took it.
With Nedeljkovic's year that he had with like the 10, all those.
Okay, but have you seen the defense in front of him?
Yes, I've seen the defense in front of him, but I'm just saying with that year they might have just been like, ooh, we got to take a chance on somebody else real quick and see what happens.
Yeah, but I mean, if we're being honest, now they just have 2 Nedeljkoviches on the team.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So, because Husso was basically the same as Ned, right? Like Ned had one really good year with Carolina. They traded for him, and then they signed into a contract, and he was shit because their defense was shit, and Carolina's defense wasn't shit. And then now you're gonna take Billy Husso, who had one good year on St. Louis, who was good behind a good defense, and now you're gonna put him behind a shit defense, like. I don't know. Maybe you just end up with 2 goalies making like almost $5 million who are just both bad because your blue line sucks. And it's not getting any better because you added Ben Sherratt to the blue line.
And Olimata.
Don't forget about my boy Mark Pysyk.
Look.
Pysyk's actually solid.
Pysyk's actually decent. Look. We gave them an A- because we trust Stevie Y. Like that's a lot of Stevie Y cachet going on here.
I wanted to give them a C, but
he made some really good moves for up front, right? Perron, Kopp, Kubalik, all good value, solid. He didn't really make the defense any better. And I don't know how I feel about the Husso trade / signing, but like, that's a better team. They were a better team after these signings than they were before the offseason, right?
Sure.
Like Ben Sherratt's bad, but Danny DeKeyser was also bad. Right, so it's like now you just brought Danny DeKeyser back, and he's younger, so like maybe he's not as bad. Thomas Greiss was bad, but Husso might not be bad. And Mark Stahl is old, and Oli Matt is not old.
There's a lot of mites going on right now.
Yeah, but it's Stevie Y, so we run with it. We trust him.
We doubt him.
Yeah.
Unlike the next guy who we always doubt, who actually had a good off season.
He had a great off season.
And listen, bro. Like I've been saying for months now, Brad Holland, his son, is an actual genius, and he got promoted to assistant GM a day before the draft, and it's like ever since then, Ken Holland became smart. Like we talked about Jack Campbell before. Is he worth 5x5? Probably not. Is he miles better than Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen? Yes,
No.
he is.
Oh.
Okay.
I th-
Also, getting Evander Kane, like off ice issues aside, 5 million for 4 years.
Great
That's
signing.
a bargain. Brett Kulak, probably one of the best left-hand defensemen on the market in free agency. Steal the deal. You got him under 3 million for 4 years. And even Matthias Yammer, who they recently just signed, he's a
Great
good
bottom
bottom
six forward.
great bottom 6 4. You can play on the PK. He's very reliable in his own zone. That's perfect. He basically replaces Darren Shore and Josh Archibald, and he's way better than them. You look at who they lost. Duncan Keith retired, freed up 5.5 million cap. Cooper Marody, whatsoever. Zach Casting, get rid of that contract's huge. And they have around 7.6 mil to re-sign Puljujarvi, whose arbitration is next week. They got Ryan McLeod, who won't get much, and he's still very, very good. And they got Kyler Yamamoto. It was an A- offseason for the Oilers. I want to see them sign another forward, another defenseman. Money might be tight, but for like a lot of their contracts were bargain, and they really got that goaltender that they needed. If they can get to the Western Conference Final with Mike Smith, Jack Campbell can carry them to a Cup Finals easily. It was a great offseason.
Yeah, I mean, is Jack Campbell the goalie that can win you a Stanley Cup? I don't know that. But will he lose if you're in the Stanley Cup final? Will he be the reason that you lose the cup? I don't think so. Right? I think he's a good goalie. I think I don't want to overrate him or underrate him, but I think he's the goalie that Edmonton needed. I think he's not the best goalie, but he's much better than what they had. So in that aspect, they had to pay him.
I think they could have
And
signed
I
almost
think Duncan
anybody.
Keith
And
retiring. I think Duncan Keith retiring did the Oilers such a huge favor. He could have stayed unretired, collect his $5.5 million paycheck. But he was like, you know what? You know what this playoff run taught me? I can't hang with these guys anymore.
well,
I can't skate fast enough to keep up with these guys.
what's
I
even
can't do this
funnier
anymore.
is that Duncan Keith retiring hit Chicago with the recapture penalty.
Yeah.
Added to the comedy that is the Blackhawks situation right now. So, and that because I don't think they can bring back Evander Kane if Duncan Keith doesn't retire.
No way. No way.
Yeah. So, basically they trade Duncan Keith for Evander Kane. And, Reed Schaefer wasn't even that bad of a pick. I am as a second rounder, but like clearly the Oilers like something that they saw in him. He's a fine player. But definitely one of the winners of the offseason so far. Filled every single need that they had and still have almost $8 million to bring back their young guys.
Yeah.
Immaculate offseason.
And
Honestly,
unlike Chicago, they didn't let their young guys go for nothing, so at least they'll get something back.
Yeah, they qualified them. Isn't
Yeah.
that crazy?
Whoa.
What a
Yeah.
concept.
Icons. Let's go over to Florida now. And yeah, Florida. You have no cap space. Okay, to be fair, I do like the Rudolph Balser signing. I think and the Colin White, those are very good signings. Especially Balser. He had a good year in San Jose. He's only like 23 years old. I don't know why Mike Greer let him go. I don't know what the hell they're doing bringing in Mark Stahl. Honestly, I don't know what the point about that is. Like Florida got worse, but they'll still be a good team just because they still got a lethal offense up from their defense, basically unchanged. You just have to hope Bobrovsky and Knight can finally get the job done. That's what the whole season is dependent on. If Bob falters the bed again, like you need a change in that aspect. You're not going to go on a deep cup run with Bobrovsky keep putting up .900 save percentage in the playoffs. It's not going to happen. You need to upgrade on that front. But like for the guys they lost, like Haggis, whatever, Nidvar played like one game last year. I mean, letting go of Ben Sherrod is an addition. And like you're never bringing back Claude Giroux to begin with. Like they're offering like $1 million on a 1-year deal. So like
that's all we can
they
afford.
They get much worse, but like they're in cap hell. So like that's why they get a C.
Yeah, they get a C.
I think they're in a really tough spot, to be honest with you. Mason Marchment, we don't know how good he's going to be in Dallas, but he was real good for Florida, and they had to let him go because they couldn't pay him. Claude Giroux, still one of the 35 best centers in the NHL at least, at the very least. You'd probably say top 25. They had to let him go. Noah Chari, solid bottom six player, had him let him go. Is Ben Sherrod great? No, but he was actually pretty good for Florida, and that means something, and they let him go. And they're still 3 million above the cap, which means that they have to shed another salary. Is that going to be Hornqvist? Maybe. But are they going to have to give up more picks to get rid of him? Because they already don't have any picks. They barely have any. I think they have like one second round pick and like one. We have one second round pick in the next 3 years. They don't have any more firsts or something like that.
They have
Like,
they have their first round pick in 2025.
yeah, they don't have their next two first round picks, and they're also missing 2 seconds, right?
No,
So
they
have
just
like
they just don't have their 2024 second rounder.
Oh, okay, yeah. So they have one pick in the first 2 rounds for the next 3 years, right? If they're getting rid of Hornqvist, that first is probably going because no team is going to take Patrick Hornqvist's contract off of you for a third, right? Or someone from your deep prospect pool is going, like Samosevic, right? A very good young player that they drafted last year. He's probably gone, right? And yes, like the way I see it is they just for all the players that left their team, they just brought back like the guy that the other team got rid of, to take in their guy. So like Ben Sherratt went to Detroit, so then Florida was like, oh, we'll take Mark Stahl. And then Claude Giroux went to Ottawa, and they're like, oh, we'll take Colin White because you don't want Colin White anymore, right? And then Marcus Niederreiter went to San Jose, and they're like, oh, you didn't re-sign Rudolph Balcers, let's take him. They just took everyone's cast-offs, right? they went garbage bin hunting, and they're just hoping that their top six can carry them, right? Right? And if they can't move off of Hornqvist, Uyghur probably goes. And then where is your blue line looking like, right? Like that's kind of tragic. I think they're really hoping that and I think their LTR right now is with Duclair on it.
No,
So and they have either way, even if it isn't, you still have to get below the salary cap before the season start. Like you have you have to be cap compliant. And LTR doesn't kick in until the season starts. So they still have to clear that cap no matter what. It's not like oh, Duclair's on LTIR, we're home free. So, they brought in some nice guys, Colin White, Rudolph Balcers, like, sure, Chris Tierney, like, yeah, these guys are great depth guys. But their team got a lot worse, and it's going to get even more worse. So, yeah, I don't know. C makes sense to me.
C.
So, LA, once again, another solid offseason for LA. At the draft, they drafted Jack Hughes. Not the Jack Hughes on New Jersey, just better Jack Hughes. Acquisitions. I mean, Kevin Fiala was biggest and like basically the only acquisition they've made.
Why are they just getting a bunch of ex-Predators now? What is going on?
Honestly, I don't know about 8x. That's basically 8x8. I don't know about that contract. We'll see how it ends up. They don't got a lot of cap space to re-sign Gabe Velarde, Mikey Anderson, or Sean Durzi, which means they probably got to trade a guy like Sean Walker, who was injured for all of last season. He's healthy now. Like, they made the playoffs without him. You could probably get rid of Sean Walker, who's a very, very good third pair guy. Other than that, pretty quiet, but like there's not much else you should change about LA. Just let the young guys take the reins. One thing I am worried about is goaltending. Will Jonathan Quick be as good as he was last season?
Yeah,
who knows? He's like 36, 37. And Cal Pedersen, hopefully he doesn't crap the bed again like he did last year because he's getting paid $5 million.
Yeah, I've been talking about this with my family, who obviously you guys know are Kings fans, and I have said you have, at all costs, you have to get Cal Petersen going. You have signed him to that deal. You have to get him going. And if whatever he needs to get going, even if Jonathan Quick is playing out of his mind, but if what it would take to get Petersen going is to have him as the starter, you play him as the starter because you need him to get going. Because once Quick is gone, you need a new goalie to replace him. And it doesn't matter if, Quick is playing out of his mind at the moment. You have to think about the future, because that's what the Kings need, is their future intact, not the present.
Here is an interesting proposition. The clear cap to re-sign these guys. Do you think a Jonathan Quick trade is in the cards this offseason?
No.
Because I know, obviously, the city loves him. The franchise loves him. They want to keep him. But at the same time, LA's not going to win the cup this year. Let's be honest. They lost in the first round this past season. They're just not ready yet. This is probably Quick's last year. They're paying him what? Almost $6 million.
It's like 5.8, 5.8
They're
or
paying him
something.
$5.8 million for one more year. Is there not a single team right now out there who needs a goalie that would be willing to give up a second round pick for him? Right? And obviously I know from like the personal attachment level and what Quick means to this city and the cups that he's won there. Um, but you know, guys like Velarde Anderson and Sean Dursey, Leafs legend, I wish he was still on the team. Well, he was never on our team, but I wish he was. No, those guys are the future, right? And are you really going to risk not being able to bring them back because you're holding on to Jonathan Quick? Just some food for thought. He probably won't get traded, and it'll probably be Sean Walker. But even if they clear Sean Walker, is that enough to bring back Dursey, Anderson, and Velarde? Because Walker's only making like 2.5 mil.
I mean, they will have Doughty going on LTIR, so that's something.
Yeah, but like, I mean, yeah, but like as I mentioned, we call LTI doesn't kick until the regular season starts. And they still need to be cap compliant. So assuming they sign Dursey and Anderson, they go over. They still have to cut salary.
Well, if LTIR
Because
does,
he's only
well, it's just that you can't play a game all over the cap. So if it starts when the season starts, they don't really have to worry about that now.
No, there's a period in which you have to be cap compliant by, in the off season, and they have to get these guys signed. And we call it Doughty's LTIR. He's not even on LTIR. He's just on IR right now. So
Well,
until he
no
hits
one's on
LTIR,
LTIR
it's
right
over.
now.
Yeah, yeah.
Technically.
So they have to be cap compliant. I don't remember when, but they have to be they do have to shed payroll to be able to buy these guys. You're allowed to go over the cap to sign these guys, but you have to be cap compliant before the season starts. That's always been the rule. That's why so that way LTR you can't cheese it, right? That's why what you call it Kucherov the whole Kucherov situation it doesn't apply season to season, right? Like you still have to be cap compliant. Which is why, like, for example, like Kucherov, if he was on LTIR, right, like he can't stay there for the entire offseason, and then that way Tampa would be able to bring back Blake Coleman. The reason Tampa had to lose Blake Coleman was because IR wasn't a thing. You have to be cap compliant before at a certain point in the offseason with your players, and so the cut's gonna have to come eventually.
I think
It's
that
just
they could say to I don't know if they'll do it, but I think they could say to these three guys, hey, if you just take like a 1 year deal on like I don't know like very low salary, then we'll sign you bigger contracts next time because they do have money. They do have a lot of money coming off of the books for next year. They have almost 7-8 mil coming off the books for next year, so they could try to sweet talk them into something.
I mean, they could, but also for a guy like Sean Dursey and Mikey Anderson, they've earned a bridge deal that will make them 3+ million, at least 2.5 million, for a 2 or 3 year stretch. They've earned it. They've made the playoffs. They've been top four defensemen on that playoff run, as short as it was. They've both been very good, and so they're still young, obviously, and obviously LA still owns their RFA rights. But I think it would be hard pressed for these young guys to be like, yeah, we'll take a 1 year bridge deal after we had a career year.
Yeah.
It'd be tough. I'm interested to see what LA does to clear the cap, but the Fiala trade was a pretty good one, and they didn't give up like a top-notch prospect to get him. So good trade. Contract's iffy, but overall decent offseason for the Kings.
Did we ever say the grade?
But it should
B.
be.
Yeah,
B.
it's almost B.
Let's go on to Minnesota, who just had they had an off season. Just talked about Kevin Fiala. I mean, they lost Nicholas Aori, and we'll touch on Philly in a bit. They traded like Cam Talbot for Philip Gustafson, just a younger goalie. They brought back Fleury. The reason why this is a D is not because of the moves they made, and they had a wonderful draft too with William Ogren and Daniel Europe.
Yeah.
The reason why they have a D is because of their fucking buyouts.
Yeah. And to be fair, we know this is a 2022 off season. We shouldn't be holding the actions of them in 2021 against them in 2022, but we can when the actions in 2021 carry over to 2022. And that's why they get a D. They bought out two players, and it's severely hampered their cap flexibility for this offseason. a team that is trying to stay good.
Yeah, but the funnier part is that the cap buyout penalty is going to go up by 2 mil next year.
But they're lucky that Marco Rossi and Matthew Bolger are on their ELCs. You're damn lucky,
They're
Minnesota.
so
Well,
lucky.
they're not that lucky on who they would have to re-sign next year.
They got to resign next year.
Matt Dumba,
I mean, we can
Dmitry
take a look.
Kulikov.
I mean, Kulikov's whatever, but Dumba's gone.
I mean, Addison just replaces Dumbo, though, no? Like, Addison just kind of replaces Matt Dumbo.
Probably, but Tyson Jost is going to be an RFA next year. Matt Boldy's an RFA next year. There's no shot Matt Boldy doesn't get a big extension from them. He's been amazing for them this past season. So Matt Boldy's going to get paid. Brandon Duhaime probably gets the raise in like that 1 to 1.85. I don't know, depending on how he does next year. But like, there's guys that are going to have to get paid soon. Who else is I remember there's that one. Kellen Addison's an RFA next year.
You could even look at the people who have contracts expiring in 2 years, because the people who have contracts expiring in 2 years, well, they'll still have the same exact issues because it'll still be as much penalty in 2 years as it will be the year before.
To be fair, the contract in 2 years from now is not as crippling. Zuccarello is probably overpaid anyways. Foligno is, if you lose him, is like tough, but like whatever. And then what do you call it? So yeah, I mean, it's like, it's not the end of the world, but it's just like, you can't make a move like that and last offseason that carries over for such a long period of time, especially as a team that's trying to win, and not get like a bad grade. If we're being honest, if we're just looking at this offseason, if we're ignoring the buyouts, this is probably like an A minus.
No, I'd say it's a C plus.
No, that's a bit harsh. They didn't lose. No. They lost Talbot, but they got a younger goalie.
No.
Brock Faber's a really good prospect, and they killed the draft. I'm gonna
get a lot of hate for this potentially, but I'm gonna say this: when you have a choice between Cam Talbot and Marc-Andre Fleury, they picked the wrong guy to keep.
Oh.
I'm gonna say that, and I'll argue it to the end of days. Yeah, is Marc-Andre Fleury insanely good? Yes, but he's done it he's done it time and time again. He has cost his teams in the playoffs before. And like Ryan said earlier, will Campbell cost you games in the finals? No, but will Fleury? Yes, and he's cost his team. He cost Vegas playoff games. He cost Minnesota, you could say, playoff games. So it all depends on if Fleury just stays himself. And
that's a topic for another date, but yeah, I guess I can see where you guys are coming from.
Just know, Minnesota fans, Rossi's only saying this because he's a huge Robin Lehner fan, and he did not like how Vegas treated Lehner when Fleury was still there.
No. That's not even why I'm. That's not even why.
It's a joke, Ross.
Okay, let's just go to Montreal. Let's just go to Montreal. Okay,
let's go to Montreal.
Montreal. Slafkowski. Yeah, first overall. Good. Yeah,
so good.
Phil Massar at 26 is great. Owen Beck at 33 is good. Lane Hudson 54 fucking steal.
Amazing.
Doc, good acquisition. You kind of got robbed in the Dadonov trade because Vegas eats the LTIR space. You could have got back like Brendan Brisson, a second round pick. You just got back Dadonov.
Mike literally could have asked for anything from Vegas and they would have given it to you.
Matheson, I mean, okay. I mean, the key departures though, like Romanov, Petrie, Paling, they lost a lot. They'll still be bad next year, and they get a C plus. Ken Hughes lost me this offseason. Like he had a good deadline. This offseason he's been making some head scratchers.
The problem with the Canadians is their cap space. Like
you would think for a bad team that they'd have
like a lot of cap space, but
they don't be paying Josh Anderson $5.5 million.
I just have one question. How did we go from Josh Isles are really interested in Josh Anderson, are willing to give up 13th overall for him, to Alex Romanov and a third round pick for 13, and then they swap 13 for Kirby Doc.
What happened?
Just pick someone there.
What happened was that they were gonna do the trade where it was Anderson going to the Islanders, but then Lamoriello was like, I want him to shave, and he was like, I don't want to, and then he was like, no. Lamoriello just
I don't
like
know, man.
completely had a hissy fit and just kirboshed it.
As a Leafs fan, this offseason went in terms of our rivals, probably went as well as I could have wanted it to. Montreal completely overthought the draft and took Slavkovsky #1. They tried to gigabrain a trade that tried to gigabrain some 3-team trade and somehow ended up the worst out of all of them. They got Romanov for Doc. They gave up Romanov in the third for Kirby Doc when they should have just traded Romanov for 13 and then took Frank Nazar at 13. I don't know what they were thinking. The Petrie trade was a head scratcher because even though Petrie had a tough year under Ducharme, he was like almost point per game with Martin St. Louis. I feel like you could have afforded to wait a little bit. A team that falls out of the John Klingberg sweepstakes needs an offensive defenseman. Maybe you can, they gave up Ryan Paling too for a third in that move, right? That didn't really make much sense to me. And then just I feel like they could have been more effective this offseason with the assets they had and the draft capital that they had. I was really excited to see what they could do in the draft, and they weren't necessarily bad, but Slavkovsky at #1 was just it kicked off a crazy night. That pick kicked off a real crazy night.
Yeah, that was weird.
Let's go to Nashville. We'll let Rossi do the talking.
Yeah.
Nashville, they had they had very I can go in depth with this. There was a checklist that everybody in Nashville knew needed to be done. It was shore up the blue line, get Forsberg back, get a top 6 winger, and get rid of like the excess people. In the draft, they got Joakim Kamel, which was just a steal and a half. And then there were still questions on Forsberg, and then they traded for Ryan McDonough. And all they really gave up was Felipe Myers. They just gave up Felipe Myers, and I'm forgetting his name. But Grant Mishmash. And they got Ryan McDonough, which then in turn caused Philip Forsberg to re-sign. That's 2 of the things checked off. Then they traded off Luke Cunnin for John Leonard. They let Benning and Cousins go. I don't get why they let Ferentz go. Not too sure about that. They still need to re-sign Trennan. Then they got Nino Niederreiter, $4 million, 2 years. That's checked off. That's checked off. My big angriness about this is, why did you sign Kevin Lankinen? There was nothing that you can tell me that says that Kevin Lankinen needed to be signed. And I don't care if you signed him for $2. He still is not needed on the team. You have Saros, you have Saros, Ingram, and then in the AHL you have Cooley, Askarov, and Vomaka. You do not need Lankinen. And I swear to God, if Ingram starts in the AHL and Lankinen's in the NHL, there's going to be big problems. But all Nashville has to do now is just re-sign Trennan, and you're good.
It was a great offseason for David Poile.
And
I honestly nothing to say.
Yeah, it's an A.
You covered it all.
It's an A, and just one more thing: stay away from Matthew Tkachuk. What you're going to have to give up to get him isn't going to be worth it.
Next, New Jersey. Pretty good draft for New Jersey. People speculated that if Slav went 1, does New Jersey go defense? And then he went defense. They got Nemec and Seamus Casey. Andre Palat, maybe a bit expensive. He had a great playoff run, 5x6 for him. What a fucking trick. John Marino for Ty Smith. Pittsburgh, man, I don't know what the hell you're doing. Not the biggest fan of the Eric Haller trade. No, Haller's been good in Boston. We'll see how he does in New Jersey. Vanacek was very good acquisition. They needed an upgrade in goaltending. They did that. They just re-signed Jesper Bockwas today. They still got to re-sign Wood and Jesper Bratt. That was basically shored up all of the areas that they needed to. They still got cap space to re-sign their young guys. It's an A.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They did what was needed. that it's not much else to add. They just did what was needed.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, if you had to knock their off season, it would just probably be the fact that they lost out to Columbus, Ohio for Johnny
For
Gaudreau.
Johnny Gaudreau.
Well,
That's
we'll get
probably as
we'll
bad
get
as it
to
would
we'll
get.
get to the two other teams that were in on him, and we can make fun of them more. But
And the
yeah,
next team is literally the next one.
yeah,
Yeah.
New York.
Just going on right now.
Yeah.
Lou, are you dead, buddy? Because the only move you made has been Alexander Romanov, and you let go of Barry Trotz. And you lost Johnny Gaudreau to Ohio.
Funny.
Man. New York is just in shambles right now. Like that like there's some off seasons where you just go like why are we paying our general manager any money to do anything? Like this is literally the definition of that. It's like what are you doing? You fired the best coach that this franchise has probably ever seen. A guy who's led you to multiple Eastern Conference Finals after one bad year. And like to be fair, it was kind of like the relationship between Barzal and Trotz was fracturing, and so the mindset is you have to choose between the coach and your star player, and they
You
chose the
chose
star
wrong.
player. Like fine, I think they chose wrong, but fine, they went with that ownership went with that decision. Okay, then change. A part of the huge reason why Barzal and Trotz had a huge rift is because Barzal wanted to play one brand of hockey, Trotz's system is another. If that is the case, then make some moves to accommodate your star players' preferences, right? He wants more offensive focused guys, then bring in some wingers for him. Bring in a puck moving defenseman. Do something. Instead, they don't bring any wingers in, probably because they've allotted so much money to these other guys. They don't bring in a winger. They don't bring in an offensive defenseman. They do bring in a blue liner in Romanov, but he's not an offensive defenseman. Like Romanov's just like a weird player. He's not a defensive defenseman. He's not an offensive defenseman. He's not even really a two-way defenseman. Like he's just there, and he's like not bad at anything, but he's also not exceptional at anything, except the fact that he's big and he's physical. But he has skating ability, and it's weird, right? Because his offensive skills haven't been really honed, and he's also not like his instincts aren't elite defensively, but he's got a big body, he's very physical, and he's got good skating. So it's like those raw pieces just have to be fit together better, and he can be a good player. But given who was available at 13, which is what they gave up to get Romanov, Frank Nazar would be deadly in a couple of years with Matt Barzal, especially with his skill. I don't remember or Kamel, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. They got cap space, but they gotta bring back Dobson. They haven't even signed Romanov yet.
Yeah.
The only saving grace for the Islanders is that they have a really, really good goalie tandem in Varlamov and Sorokin, but like that's about it.
Yeah, and their overall grade is F
minus.
They'll probably also get a funny picture in editing.
Yeah, three teams will get a fun picture.
I think more than 3 teams deserve funny pictures.
You guys already seen the picture of Calgary post-editing wise, so
yeah, you've already seen it. There's probably gonna be other teams that get funny pictures. We'll talk about it, but
the Rags, honestly, mid. Like to be honest, like Halak, okay, he's only a backup. Shesterkin's gonna play like 70 games next year. Trocheck, I'm not a big fan of the 7-year term, but like at that cap hit, I guess it's doable. I mean, you lost Andrew Kopp, you lost Ryan Strome, you lost Frankie Bertrano. Like not a lot has
lost
really...
Kevin Rooney to Calgary.
They lost Kevin Rooney.
$1.3 million.
I mean, Justin Braun went back to Philly. Like nothing's really changed. Like as weird as that sounds, like they should still be. Like, they're not a good team. They suck ass 5v5. They're power play merchants. Basically, as long as Shesterkin is good, you're fine. That's about it.
They'll be a playoff team. The Rangers offseason is basically summed up with take the Rangers at the start of season last year, okay? Take Ryan Strome, kick him out, bring in Vincent Trocheck. Take Georgiev, kick him out, bring in Kalak. That was their offseason.
Yeah, that's it.
They just took the same team last year and just replaced 2 players and brought in 2 guys that are Trocheck's better than Strome, and then Halak, I don't know, Georgiev Halak is like whatever. They play 15 games. Okay, it doesn't really matter who's better.
Just hope that
was just the offseason.
Shesterkin doesn't get hurt. C+.
Yeah, nothing special, but not terrible.
Jack was mentioning his rival teams doing bad. Well, one of his rival teams did amazing. Ottawa getting DeBrincat for basically nothing. You got Cam Talbot to play in a tandem with Anton Forsberg. You signed Claude Giroux to a very, very good deal. You still got cap space to re-sign Eric Brandstrom, Matthew Joseph, who had a good end of the year, and Alex Formenton. They lost once again, basically nothing. Like Colin White was getting overpaid there. Tierney was on their fourth line. Gaudette goes to Toronto. Matt Murray goes to Toronto. We'll talk about that soon as well.
No, we're gonna put that off until we get to Toronto. I'm not talking about that right now.
They're drafted. They got a lot of good prospects. I like Philip Nordland, like A+ for the Sens, man. They're gonna be a playoff team next year. That's my.
Why is Dorian good? Oh, we know why Dorian's good now.
Because of Melnick.
We know.
He's sleeping. He's sleeping.
Ottawa is so great. They fleeced everybody that they traded with. Let's just go to the next thing. I don't want to talk about Ottawa.
Okay.
Good
job, Sens. Oh, but this team. This next team's awesome.
Let's go. All right. I think we could all take turns just slapping this team down. Philadelphia, what is wrong with you? What are you doing?
You selected Cutter Gauthier.
Why are you the way you are? You select Cutter Gauthier. Why? you get Tony DeAngelo. Why? You bring back Justin Braun. Fair enough. You bring in Nicholas Delorier. Why? Connor Marudi and Adam Brooks. Okay.
Ever.
You bought out Oscar Lindblom.
You bought out the best player.
Why?
You bought out one of the, you can't do that to Lindblom, man. After what he's been through.
You bought out Lindblom and then replaced him with Delorier, basically. And then Jones and Yandel leave.
Philadelphia is just so confusing. They're like, we don't want to rebuild. Okay, fine. So picks don't matter then. We want Johnny Gaudreau. Perfect. You're actually consistent. You don't want to rebuild. But we don't want to give up a first-round pick to get rid of James Van Riemsdyk's contract so we can bring Johnny Gaudreau back. Wait, I thought you didn't want to rebuild. Well, we don't want to rebuild, but we don't want to give up our first-round pick. I mean, what would that first-round pick have gotten you anyways? Well, I mean, we could probably use at the deadline to get an asset. Well, is Johnny Gaudreau not an asset? Well, you know, we like JVR. He's a big net from. You like him at $7 million a year? Well, no, but we don't want to give up a first round. Like, what are you doing? They're so inconsistent.
They literally have spent this entire time making Ron Hextall look competent.
And then on top of that, they didn't want to pay Ghost because he's an offensive defenseman who doesn't play defense, and they traded away a second-round pick to get off of his contract with 2 years left. Then they turned around the next chance they have a cap space and signed Tony DeAngelo, who's an offensive defenseman who doesn't play defense, and they signed him for 2 more years at a higher rate. I'm like, what is wrong with you? What is actually? And then they were like, you know what we need? You know what we had? We had Nicholas Aube-Kubel, who won a cup with the Colorado Avalanche. You know what he brought? He was a physical guy. He was a speedy guy. He hit a lot. You know what? We need that kind of guy on our team. So you know what we'll do? We'll put him on waivers. We'll let him go. And you know what we're going to do this offseason? We're going to pay an older version of him who's more expensive, and we're going to give him 4 years at almost $2 million in Nicholas Delorier. Make it make sense. Please make this make sense. It doesn't. And then they bought out Lindblom. Yes, Lindblom is the reason y'all suck at defense. Lindblom is defense. Your top 6 can't score. Lindblom is the reason James Van Riemsdyk is a pylon. Guess what? He's always been a pylon. Maybe he didn't deserve $7 million when you took him from Toronto. I knew he wasn't worth $7 million, and I love James Van Riemsdyk. Okay.
Oh, no.
Play sucks.
They literally were just like, racism is good, and that was it. That's Philly's offseason.
Next.
It was an F, by the way. We didn't even mention the grade. That's how.
I think that was obvious at that point.
Pittsburgh.
Kind of changing my mind on this grade now. We gave Pittsburgh a B-. I'm really leaning towards a C+.
All right, well, I'll just show the thing since you already said it.
I'm really leaning towards a C+. I mean, like, Pittsburgh makes like 20 bajillion changes every single year, and it makes no sense. Like, we talked about John Marino. You lost that trade, right? Jeff Petrie, okay, fine. What the fuck was the point of not giving a Q qualifying offer to Danton Heinen, but you give it to Kasperi Kapanen? Kapanen, really? In a
And then they
3.2 million?
paid him. And then they paid him.
Then let's not mention the fact that Chris Letang. I mean, we mentioned this a lot of times. You gave Chris Letang fucking 6 years. He's gonna be like 42 years old when that ends. Then you make Malkin feel like he's worthless. So shame on you. And like
The only reason
Raquel-
Malkin's back is literally because Crosby just was like, okay.
Raquel.
Gino, I get it, okay? Our ownership sucks, but we've been playing together for how many years now? We've won how many cups together? Are you really gonna leave me to go to New York where all of them are just power play merchants and the only way you're gonna score if you're on the power play?
That's not even
really
what
gonna leave
happened.
me for
That's
that?
not even what happened, I bet. What happened is literally it was Crosby. He walked up to Hextall and whoever owns the Penguins, whoever the majority owner of the Penguins are, and he literally
was like pay him.
he just slapped both of them like repeatedly, brought in Malkin and said, "Give this man money," and then walked out.
I mean, we haven't talked about like Raquel getting paid $6 million at 5 years. Like he's not really the same player as he once was. Jan Ruda, a third pair guy, almost 3x3. Like I mean Nick and Siakam don't like going Pickering.
No, I hated that pick.
So like I'm really changing my mind. I think this might be a C+.
I think B minus,
Honestly?
C plus.
And you're signing fucking Josh Archibald. The guy sucked ass.
Honestly, the saving grace for this offseason for Pittsburgh is for a team that doesn't have any prospects. Basically, they did get two young guys who have played NHL minutes, and in Ryan Poehling and Ty Smith. And if they think that with more NHL ice time, these two guys on cheap deals can become something more, and we've seen that with Mike Sullivan. He's taken players that other teams haven't valued, who struggle on other teams, and he's turned them into really good NHL players. We saw it happen with Mike Matheson, right? And so if they can do it, and that's why I was kind of advocating for the B minus grade. It's because they did get some upside in there, right? And Jeff Petrie is a better offensive defenseman than John Marino. He's older, right? But if you're a team that's trying to win, right, and you're trying to maximize however many years Sid has left, right? And that's why I wasn't as harsh on them with the contracts, because they're under pressure, right? Some teams, they can be like, oh, like, we don't really care if we bring back Malkin or Letang. They're old. They're not worth that much money for that many years. But with Pittsburgh's a little bit different because you have to keep in mind there's legacy involved, right? The legacy that Letang and Malkin have with this team, the fact that Crosby probably only has 3 or 4 good years left, and you need to make a push for him after all they've given for your franchise. And so from that aspect, I don't want to hate on them too much because, again, the Raquel signing, if Pittsburgh was a team where, Malkin, Letang, and Crosby had already retired, I guarantee you they don't bring in Raquel. They don't trade for him. They don't re-sign him. But they have to in this case. Ruda was just, they need a right-hand shot. They overpaid for him. Like, I don't love it.
But then what's the point of that if they bring in Petrie? That's what I don't get. It just kind of makes that move redundant.
Well, because I think they've really been struggling to find a really solid bottom pair guy. You saw them last season. They rotated like 5 guys on that bottom pair.
I'm pretty
right?
sure Ryan is literally just stalling so we don't get to Toronto.
Shut up. Honestly, the only trade I really don't like for them was the captain signing and letting Heinen go. I feel like if they swap those 2 moves around, I don't really hate Pittsburgh's offseason that much. Given the lens that they're trying to compete right now, they're trying to build the best roster they can for the next 2 years, really, and they don't have anything else in sight after that. The Pickering side I don't get because they basically just drafted a younger version of POJ, who they don't seem to want to play anyways. So,
yeah. All right, next team, San Jose. We're gonna hurry up just a little bit because we've been out of it for like an hour and 20 now.
Yeah, and plus one of the teams coming up is gonna take a while.
So like we'll hurry up a little bit. Not like San Jose made some additions like Steve Lorenz, who's on here twice. So okay, but like Steve Lorenz from the Burns trade, he's a fine bottom 6 guy. I hate Luke Kunin. He sucks. I don't care what you say, Rossi. He blows. Nico Sturm, I mean, fine, third liner, bottom six guy, maybe a bit too much cash. Oscar Lindblom, that's perfect for Lindblom. I really hope he succeeds there. He deserves everything in the world. Matthew Benning and Marcus Nunavera, very solid defensemen.
Yeah, very.
Only move I don't get is the Bolsters and Dahlin not getting QO offers, and the fact that they're still in cap hell. This team still sucks, so that's to get a C+.
Yeah.
They did pretty good in the draft, though. I like Bystedt at 27, and I like Havlet at 45. So, yeah, just a regular off season. C+ seems about right.
Next team, Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle. This might. We might be. It's a B+ on here. It might be an A-, to be honest.
B+. Yeah, it's another one that B+, A-. Not really big of a difference, but
it's just what an off season, man. Getting Shane Wright at number 4. My God, what a steal! Jagger Furcus, Yanni Neiman, David Goyette, and Ty Nelson falling to the third round. A++ draft for the Seattle Kraken. You got Andrei Burakovsky. You got Oliver Bergstrand for jack shit, basically. Your forecourt is looking insane. I don't know about Justin Schultz and Martin Jones. That doesn't really improve your defense.
Martin Jones is the GOAT, bro. What are you on
about?
It
probably makes those two areas worse.
Yes.
Besides that,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not.
It really should be an A. It really should be an A-, or at least an A-.
I was thinking,
okay, to be fair, Bjorkstrand makes it look a lot better.
Yeah. Before then,
so this grade was before we put in Oliver. So.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, how different is a B+ to an A-?
Get that A.
It could honestly be an A.
I think it might be an A.
They didn't lose anybody, and they had Burakovsky, Bjorkstrand, Shane Wright, Jagger Furcus, David Goyette, and Ty Nelson. Whew, that's wow.
That might be
we really underrated their offseason.
Okay.
That might be an A.
Next team.
Just yeah.
It's an A.
Louis.
Yeah, there wasn't much to say, and we kind of are doing to hurry up. So, St. Louis.
St. Louis. Nick Leddy, 4x4. Woo! That's not gonna hurt you guys at all.
Bad contract. We also didn't include the Robert Thomas extension in here, but that's fine. He got like 8x8.
8x8. And I mean, you basically lost. Perron, and you didn't really replace him. I mean, now they're gonna rely on Jordan Binnington and Thomas Greiss for some reason, even though Joel Hofer is NHL ready. I don't know what St. Louis is doing. C- is pretty much fine. And you got no cap space to re-sign Klim Kostin either, so there's that.
Yeah.
It just boils down to, in a division where a lot of teams, some teams are getting better, they've taken a step back. And to be fair, that is a bit of a trend with this division. Colorado took a bit of a step back, but they're still very good. Minnesota took a step back. St. Louis is taking a step back. I just really don't like the Nick Leddy contract.
What teams in the Central besides Nashville and I guess Arizona, because they can't go lower?
I think Dallas took a bit of a step forward, a little bit.
Yeah, honestly, because I think Klingberg was just terrible. He's not terrible, but I don't know if you guys watched the Klingberg video that I made, but his stats with Suter and Lindell, right? Both not very good. The expected goals for percentage was below 50% whenever he was on the ice. So Dallas was consistently getting outscored when he was out there. So I think low key a bit of a addition by subtraction.
All right, so I guess there's 3 teams in the Central that have improved.
Next team we got Tampa Bay. I mean,
money.
You expect this to happen, right? McDonough gone, Palat gone, Ruda gone. I mean, that Ruda's whatever. They drafted Isaac Howard, which was a very good pick. I don't know about giving Ian Cole $3 million. I mean, Nemestikov at 2.5. That's fine. He's been there before. He's a good third liner. Hayden Fleury, that's whatever. Phil Myers, sure. I mean, their team is still very, very good, even though they're overpaying a lot for Mikhail Sergachev, $8.5 million. I don't know about that, Chief.
They also have no money.
No, they're literally they have -7 mil, and everybody had thought that any team that traded for Phil Myers that we're just gonna buy him out because you would get cap relief from buying out Phil Myers the first year, and they still haven't bought him out. So
next year, Tampa has $4 million cap space. They have 12 players signed.
I mean, thank God Tampa's going to be terrible in a couple of years.
They're
Thank
gonna be
God.
bad. But
Finally.
this is the last year of Tampa Bay's like dominance.
Yeah, and it's funny because they didn't even win a cup out of a COVID year, so
Oh, that's
Oh,
true. Okay.
funny.
Here we
honestly,
go.
Mickey Mouse Cups. Oh, God.
Overall
Oh,
grade
man.
Right.
C
All
minus.
right. All right.
Best now for the long one. All right,
Me
let's
and
Okay,
you
go.
won't talk. We'll just do Ryan duo talking.
let me talk. Okay. I'm gonna I'm gonna have a bit of a homer moment here, and I'm gonna try to justify the
Go
Matt
off,
Murray
my guy.
trade.
Go off.
I'm going to try. Okay. Jack Campbell is a very good goalie for the Leafs. At his peak in the last 3 years, Jack Campbell is heads and shoulders above Matt Murray. At the same time, Jack Campbell's lows last season were probably on par with Matt Murray's lows over the last 3 years. Matt Murray and Jack Campbell both suffer from durability issues. Well, Murray has only played 10 less games than Campbell the last 3 seasons. To have him at less than 5 million, at 4.625 to be precise, for only 2 years, instead of giving Jack a 5x5, is not the end of the world. That being said, Matt Murray sucks. So, yeah, no, our goalies just got way worse. There's not really justifying it. Samsonov, I think, will be better than Mrazek, only because I don't think you can get much worse than Mrazek. I think there were only like legitimately 2 goaltenders last season that were worse than Peter Mrazek. One of them is now on Nashville, and the other one is the other one who was the other one's still on Columbus because they gave him another contract for some reason. Okay, so goaltending probably bottom 5 in the league. That's fine. Okay, Samsonov, 20 games in the season, is going to be a Vezina caliber goalie. Matt Murray is going to go on LTIR, and then we're going to trade for Jonathan Quick at the deadline for 50% retain. It'll work out. It's fine. We don't worry about Matt Murray. I hope he goes. Actually, I don't hope he goes. I hope he becomes good, but I don't think it's going to happen. Mikheyev going to Vancouver. Go get paid, my man. I love you. You're great for us. I'm going to miss you, but that contract is outrageous. I'm never paying you that much money. Colin Blackwell, I would have liked him back, but 1.2 million is a bit rich, so best of luck to you. Kasha to Carolina. That one hurts. He's injury prone. He gets hurt, but he was a really good player. Tenacious on the forecheck. 1.5 is not that expensive, but at the same time, we're broke, so I can kind of see why it happened. Ilya Lyubushkin, I'm gonna save Spezza for the very, very end. Ilya Lyubushkin was really good with Morgan Riley, so seeing him leave is a bit tough because Riley and Brody did not look good together last season, even though they were really good 2 years ago together. So losing Lyubushkin is definitely going to be a bit tough, but I think with that probably means also that Hall is going to stay on the team. I don't think he's going to get moved anymore because we need him on the right side, and Dubas has said he likes Sandin on the left more than the right. So Hall is probably going to be a staple in the lineup next season. So that's going to hurt. I don't love that. Now to what we brought back. Engvall back on a 1-year deal. I like it. Gio is a godsend. He's our Spezza replacement. And then Malgin, Ben, and Mete are just like whatever signings, and Gaudette, they're just whatever signings. I like Obey Kubel a lot. A 1x1 is a really good contract. And Yarncrow, I really like the contract. I think he could have gone a lot more in terms of AAV, but we had to give him more term to get it down. And I think he's very consistent. He's a 15 goal scorer, 35 to 40 point guy, plays solid two-way game. And to fit the Leafs meta, he doesn't do anything in the playoffs. But that's fine because no one on our team does anything in the playoffs. So it
Wait a
doesn't
minute.
really
What do you
matter.
mean? Wait, hold up.
I mean, okay, fine. He does more than the rest of the team, but like he was
Thank
pretty
you.
he was pretty quiet for Calgary last year.
You at least have to give him credit for his time with us.
No,
At
that's
least.
fair. That's fair. That's fair. Now I'm gonna be honest. The thing that hurts the most this offseason is not even the fact that we replaced Jack Campbell with Matt Murray. It's not the fact that a cult legend in Ilya Mikheyev left to go to Vancouver. You know, those things suck, right? And it doesn't even suck that we trade down from 25 and we didn't get to draft Isaac Howard like I was pounding the table for. Like that all sucks, but it's fine. What really hurts the most, I think, this offseason as a Leafs fan, is we really let Jason Spezza retire without seeing the second round of the playoffs in the blue and white sweater. I think that sucks the most as a Leafs fan. Because this guy took the veterans minimum for 3 seasons with us, wasted 3 years of his career to come play for this hometown team, took much less than what he probably could have gotten from other teams, threatened to retire so that when we put him on waivers to give another guy a shot, another team wouldn't take him. And this is how we repaid him. A C plus, which is the grade I gave this team, I think is very generous. And the only reason I did it is because I think we've done a decent job at replacing the 4 depth that we lost. But just the locker room guys alone that we lost. Jack Campbell was loved in this locker room. Jason Spezza was such a leader. And, Kasha and Labuschagne and Blackwell brought such a physical, edgy dynamic to this team. And we lost all those guys, and we didn't bring anyone back. And Sandin's being a bitch. I'm sorry. It's the truth. This guy won't sign a contract. Bro, I get that you want to play, okay? But our left side is Morgan Rielly, Jake Muzzin, and Mark Giordano, all right? And you're Rasmus Sandin. One of the 4 names do not belong with the other 3, okay? If you weren't made of glass and got injured every 5 games, maybe you would be on this team. Maybe you would have a roster spot. But until you can show us you can play an 82-game regular season, let's not talk about, I don't see myself as having a future on this team. Maybe that's because you don't. Okay.
I mean, it probably doesn't because you guys do have negative cap space.
We're probably gonna be moving Kerfoot, and that's gonna be another player that I actually really like that we're gonna have to lose. So, I mean, goaltending's in shambles. We lost a lot of key locker room guys. Terrible offseason. Terrible offseason. I'm not happy. I wouldn't be surprised if we're a wild card team next year. Legitimately, Ottawa, I think, after this offseason could be better than us. I think Detroit could be in the conversation with us. I think both Toronto and Florida have taken massive steps back this offseason. As a Leafs fan, I'm not happy. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I kind of wish Ken Holland and his son were our general managers right now because Edmonton is looking good and my team is looking like trash.
Right. I think that's enough for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Let's go on to the Canucks. Their drafting was pretty good. They got Lakiri Mackey at 15. They drafted Elias Pettersson. Again. 80. We talked about McKayev so many times today. I mean, Kuzmenko, we'll see how he is from the KHL. They didn't really lose a lot, but they really haven't done a lot, and they're also still in salary cap hell. And LTIR with negative 2.75 mil, so that's what they get a C plus. They really have done nothing, yet their team is still kind of meh, especially that defense. You still got Oliel, Tucker Pullman, and Tyler Myers in your top 4. That's a yikes. And Quinn Hughes can't play defense either, so it doesn't help. Yeah, so C plus for Vancouver.
There's nothing really to add. Just get out of cap hell.
And this next team.
This is the team this was the first team to get the joke image before we started recording. And I didn't even wait to just wait for the grade. I just showed it. I was just here.
We talked about Pacioretty. We talked about Dadonov. We talked about Janmark. The key acquisition was LTIR Shea Weber, and they're still over the cap, and they have 7 roster spots open. They gotta recycle Raw and Haig.
There's nothing to say about Vegas. This is what you get, Vegas. Y'all had it so good for so long. Y'all came into the NHL and y'all went to a cup finals. Okay? This is what reality in the NHL is really like. Now you know how Leafs fans feel, okay? Y'all can't stay at the top forever. Y'all had a good run.
When were the Leafs ever at the top, though?
Look, we were at the top of the Atlantic. No, we weren't. We were at the top of the North Division 2 years ago, okay?
Let's go.
We were at the top. Vegas, you had your time, okay? Now you just gotta be humble. You traded away all your prospects. You traded away all these picks, right? What do you have to show for Nick Suzuki? Nothing. You literally have nothing. Vegas, have fun being the laughing stock of the NHL the next couple of years.
Here's the thing. As I have been working on a video about Vegas, too. It was going to be released, but then Urinating Tree released his Vegas video, so now I'm waiting. This team was just greedy, and it just kept going, and they were pushing and pushing and pushing. And now nobody wants to go there. because of how they treat their players. They have the cornerstone of their franchise, Marc-Andre Fleury. They get rid of him and treat him like shit. Then they turn around and are like, well, the guy we replaced you for, we're just going to treat him like shit too. And it wasn't just the management or the coaches or the fans that it's all, or the owners, it's all of it. Everybody on the team is treated like nothing. If you're liked by one sect of the team, you're hated by probably the rest. So no one wants to go there. It's embarrassing.
I mean, there's a report that came out today. No one wants to go to Vegas anymore because of this.
Yeah, no, and it's not shocking. Because what do? They have Marc-Andre Fleury. But it's fine that you got rid of him. You should have gotten rid of him for something, but it's fine that you got rid of him. Leonard's there. He was cheaper, and he's younger, and he won't cost you as much in the playoffs as Fleury does. It's fine that you got rid of him. But to get rid of him for nothing is embarrassing. And then what do? You trade away literally everything. And then you're in such cap hell that you need to get rid of players for future considerations. And it's not even bad players with bad contracts that they're getting rid of. It's great players. It's great players. And no one wants to go there because you treat him like trash. You treated Fleury like trash. You got rid of him for nothing. You treat Leonard like trash. You misuse him. You were literally denying that he was injured. Nate Schmidt, I didn't even mention. You treated him like trash.
Fan favorite. He was a fan favorite on Vegas, and they just let him go. They just traded him. They were like, "Thank you, but no thanks." He was having his best games of his career, best seasons of his career with Vegas. They gave him an extension. He was comfortable in Vegas. The fans loved him. He loved it there, and they showed him no loyalty. And they're like, "We gotta move you." And it's tough to be a player in Vegas because you don't know whether or not you can really set your roots down and really be comfortable there, because they just seem to like to rotate players, bring them in, move them out after 2 years, bring them in, move them out after a year. It's just a constant cycle, and it's tough on the players, and I don't blame them for not wanting to go to Vegas anymore. So they've just completely made a wreck of this entire situation. Z minus,
Yeah,
which doesn't make a positive.
No, like, obviously, I have a video that I've been working on, and Shay, you're gonna help me with it.
All right. Next team. Washington. Honestly, I was worried about Washington coming to this offseason. They had a decent year. Kemper. They needed a goaltender. They got their goaltender. Is it a bit much? Probably. They got Strome on a very good contract. They got Connor Brown, very good player from the Ottawa Senators. The thing that hurts them the most, Tom Wilson and Nicholas Backstrom will be on IR to start the year. Wilson should be back around January. Nicholas Backstrom not play again, which would suck. Their drafting was very good. I'm not saying that last name, but
Ivan Miroshanko. There you go. I can pronounce some names.
In Miro's case, I had him as a top 10 pick before the new year started, and he got diagnosed with cancer. But this is a very good pick because he still has a lot of potential. Drafting Russians have gone very well for the Caps in the past, and Ryan Chesley was the guy who I had in my first round many mock drafts, and it was just a very good offseason for the Capitals.
Yeah,
I liked it. My one question is, how are they going to get cap compliant before the start of the season?
That's going to be hard. They probably trade Hagelin and someone like that.
It's gonna be Hagelin, probably Lars Eller, I'd have to guess.
Yeah.
Now they've brought in a bunch of middle six guys. Who else would there be? I'm not sure, but they gotta move some contracts.
They could get rid of. Do you get rid of Oshie?
I think Oshie stays.
He's got a modified no trade though. Probably. There's 20 teams you can probably trade him to, give or take. So, Oshie's not out of the question. But yeah, they definitely have to make some moves, for sure. But solid offseason overall for Washington.
Yeah.
And the final team.
Wait, we didn't say the grade.
B minus for Washington.
And I don't remember the grades, so you guys have to say them. I only remember the grade for like 2 teams.
The final team. Winnipeg. Winnipeg.
This is funny.
I hope you don't
Hope you're
mind,
enjoying
boys.
Pierre-Luc Dubois. Hope you're really enjoying Pierre-Luc Dubois and his pettiness, huh? What's your biggest signing? Oh, we signed David Riddick and Kyle Capobianco. Those are our big moves.
By the
Oh,
way,
you know,
the Nashville Predators, a team that is known for making any goalie good and making bad goalies look very good. They couldn't make David Riddick look good, and you were like, yes, let's sign him.
they're also like, you know what? At number 14, take Rutger McGroarty.
Who's a fine player, but
But not at 14.
14.
Not, and
And,
especially
like,
not when
Lambert
like
wasn't-
Campbell is available.
I really
And-
love the Lambert pick. It's not for Winnipeg.
They suck
I
at.
don't trust
They can't develop fins. Hey, Nola is a fucking bust there. What's that guy's name?
Vesalainen.
Line, you ran. You. We'll talk about the Line Dubois thing maybe tomorrow or whatever. But like, my God, this team's a mess. And like, Dubois wants out. You're trying to shop Wheeler. Shively's a fucking piece of shit. Like, this team's a mess. And
Bro.
you hire Rick Bowness as your coach.
The fact that there are literally the fact that there are two teams competing for the biggest laughingstock in the Central Division, and neither of them is Arizona, is hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a terrible offseason. D+.
D plus, and that's us, and that's before they trade Pierre-Luc Dubois for peanuts. Then it'll be an F.
Yeah, they got no leverage in that situation
How
whatsoever.
how long until
Yeah.
Dubois is like he's gonna get traded to Montreal, and then how long until Dubois is like I want to go somewhere else?
Every 2
No,
years
you know
he's
what?
gonna do this.
You know what? I want Dubois to stay in Montreal, and as a Leafs fan, as much as I would hate it, out of pettiness, I want him to go to Montreal, and I want him to succeed in Montreal. I want him to be great in Montreal, and I want to look at Winnipeg and be like, see, this is what you do to players. You bring them in, they're terrible for you, and then they leave, and then they're good.
Well,
What
I think
happens when you go to Winnipeg?
I think you gotta go like at the same time, you gotta also kind of think of it this way. Do you really want Dubois to succeed when all he's done is just like throw hissy fits to get his way, to get first out of Columbus and then now out of fucking Winnipeg?
You know what? I hope he's terrible, but Winnipeg doesn't get anything for him, and then what they do get for him in terms of draft picks, they just select busts. So they literally get
Oh
nothing
my
for
God.
him. They trade away Line and Roslovich for nothing. And I hope whoever they took with that third round pick in that trade also busts. So they literally just fumble the bag.
All right, I got the perfect trade. Ready? This is what's gonna happen. It's gonna be Winnipeg trades Pierre-Luc Dubois for Carl Osner's dead cap hit.
Carl Osner.
That's just his dead cap hit. That's fitting too.
That I don't think that's allowed, but that'd be
Don't
fun.
worry, that'd be fun. It's just fitting.
Yeah.
That's it for this episode. That was really fucking long. But yeah.
Yeah,
If
let
any
us know if you agree with our grade for your team. If you enjoy the video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe.